They say twins share everything, the same womb, the same face, even the same breath. But as the sun rose over Harare, I realized that while we shared a face, my sister Aisha was brewing a poison in her heart that no amount of sisterly love could sweeten. We meet Halima, a dedicated teacher whose goal is to build a free school for the village children. Her flaw is her excessive trust. She believes that Aisha's blood makes her safe, a belief that allows Aisha to walk away with every cent Halima ever saved. We were 7 years old when grandmother Gogo called us to her bedside, her hands trembling as she held the family's gold necklace, 3 generations of women compressed into linked chains and a single amber stone that caught light like trapped fire. Halima, she said, her voice thin as paper, you have the heart of water. You give, and the world drinks from you without ever filling your cup. Her fingers closed around mine, pressing the necklace into my palm. This is for you. Aisha's breath caught beside me. We were identical in every way, same dark eyes, same curved smile, same birthmark on our left shoulders. But in that moment, something cracked between us, invisible but absolute. Why her? Aisha's voice was small, dangerous. Gogo's eyes found hers. Because you, my fire child, have a heart that burns. You want to consume everything you touch. She reached for Aisha's face with her free hand. One day, you will learn that what you burn, you can never hold. That's not fair, Aisha whispered. Fairness and wisdom are not the same thing, child. That night, I woke to find Aisha standing over me, staring at the necklace I'd placed on our shared dresser. The moonlight caught her face, and for a moment, I didn't recognize my own reflection in her features. Her eyes held something I'd never seen before, something that looked like hunger. It should have been mine, she said. We can share it, I offered, because that's what we did. We shared everything. No. She turned away, her shadow stretching long across our bedroom floor. We can't. I didn't understand then. I thought jealousy was temporary, a storm that would pass. I didn't know it was a seed she'd planted deep in her chest, watering it with resentment until it grew roots that strangled everything else. The prophecy had been spoken. The necklace had chosen. And my sister had begun her long walk away from me, even as we continued to share the same room, the same face, the same breath. 3 years later, Mama's scream shattered the morning. The metal box where she kept our family savings, 2 years of selling vegetables at the market, every naira counted twice, sat empty on the kitchen table, its lock forced open, its contents gone. Who did this? Popo's voice was quiet, which made it more terrifying than shouting. I stood frozen in the doorway. Aisha stood beside me, her face a perfect mirror of shock and confusion. We'd practiced that expression together as children, fooling teachers and aunties. Now she used it against our own blood. Maybe it was thieves, Aisha suggested. The window was open last night. But Mama was already moving toward our room, her intuition sharp as broken glass. She tore through our belongings with shaking hands. In Aisha's school bag, buried under textbooks, she found nothing. In mine, tucked inside my mathematics notebook, she found 5,000 naira. Halima. Mama's voice broke on my name. I didn't, the words tangled in my throat. I would never. She's been talking about wanting new shoes, Aisha said quietly, her eyes downcast. She said the other girls laugh at her old ones. It was true. I had said that. But I'd never. Papa's hand came down hard across my face. The shock hurt more than the sting. He'd never raised a hand to us before. You shamed this family, he said. I tried to explain, to defend myself, but the evidence was there, planted like a knife in my back. That night, locked in our room as punishment, I confronted Aisha. Why? My voice was barely a whisper. She looked at me with eyes that held no remorse, only calculation. Because they'll always believe you're the good one. So when something bad happens, it's easier to make them doubt. She touched the bruise forming on my cheek, almost tenderly. Besides, I needed that money more than they did. For what? For getting out of here. She lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. I'm not going to be poor forever, Halima. I'm not going to sell vegetables and count naira like they're precious. I'm going to be someone. By stealing. By being smart. She turned her head to look at me. You can come with me, you know. We are twins. We could be unstoppable together. I don't want to be unstoppable, I said. I just want to be good. She laughed, soft and sad. Then you'll always be poor. That was the first time I saw it clearly, the divergence of our souls. We shared everything except the one thing that mattered, our sense of right and wrong. And in that gap, a chasm was opening that would eventually swallow us both. At 18, our lives split like a river finding two paths down a mountain. I became a teacher at the village primary school, earning $150 a month, wearing the same 3 dresses rotated throughout the week. Aisha disappeared to Lagos with promises of business opportunities that she never quite explained. Mama worried. Papa pretended not to. I saved every spare naira in a metal box hidden under my bed, dreaming of building a proper school, one with a library and computers and a playground where children could be children instead of farmers' helpers. Aisha called once a month, her voice bright with champagne bubbles and city lights. You should see me now, Halima. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, men who drive cars that cost more than our entire village. How are you affording all this? I asked. I told you. Business. What kind of business? The kind that pays. Her laugh tinkled like ice in a glass. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself, stuck in that dusty village teaching children who just end up farming anyway. Education is never wasted, I said. Neither is ambition. The calls grew shorter, more distant. Then one day, 3 years into our separate lives, she showed up at my doorstep in a Mercedes with tinted windows, her skin glowing with expensive creams, her hair woven with Brazilian extensions that cost more than my monthly salary. The village gathered to see her. Aisha, the girl who'd escaped, who'd made something of herself. They looked at her like she was proof that poverty was a choice. I'm getting married, she announced, flashing a ring that caught sunlight like a disco ball. To a businessman. A real one. That's wonderful, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, she was still my sister. His name is Uche. He's in imports and exports. We are having the wedding in Lagos, of course. She looked around our small compound with something between pity and disdain. You'll come, won't you? If I can afford the transport. She pressed a wad of bills into my hand. Consider it handled. Then, quieter, I want you there, Halima. You're the only real thing I have left. I should have questioned it then, the money, the sudden appearance, the need for my validation. But I was still her twin, still believed that somewhere under the designer clothes and Lagos accent, my sister's heart beat in rhythm with mine. I didn't know she was already married. To 3 different men. In 3 different cities. Using 3 different versions of her life story, each one more elaborate than the last. The call came on a Tuesday morning, during my 3rd period mathematics class. Aisha's voice crackled with panic through the cheap phone line. Halima, I need your help. It's an emergency. I stepped outside, my heart already racing. What's wrong? The bank, there's been a crisis. A computer error froze all my accounts. Uche is out of the country, I can't reach him, and I have a payment due today. If I don't make it, we lose everything. Her voice broke convincingly. I need $15,000. Just for 2 weeks. I swear I'll pay you back with interest. $15,000. Every cent I'd saved over 5 years. Every student sponsorship I'd declined, every meal I'd skipped, every dream I'd deferred, all of it compressed into a number that represented my future school. Aisha, that's my entire. I know what it is. Her voice hardened slightly. And I know what I'm asking. But I'm your sister. Your twin. If you can't trust me, who can you trust? That word. Trust. It wrapped around my throat like a noose made of shared DNA and childhood memories. We were the same person, split into 2 bodies. Her crisis was my crisis. Her emergency was my emergency. The transfer has to happen today, she pressed. By noon. Can you do it? I thought of the children in my classroom, waiting for the school I'd promised them. I thought of Grandmother Gogo's words about my heart of water, always giving. I thought of how Aisha had changed, grown distant, become someone I barely recognized. But she was still my sister. I'll do it, I said. Thank you. Thank you. You're saving my life. Relief flooded her voice. Send it to this account number. And Halima. Don't tell anyone. Uche would be humiliated if people knew we had money problems. I went to the bank during lunch break, my hands shaking as I filled out the transfer form. The teller looked at me with concern. This is a large amount, madam. Are you sure? It's for my sister, I said, as if that explained everything. It did, in a way. It explained why I ignored every red flag, every warning bell, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. Because in my world, family meant safety. Blood meant protection. And twins meant unbreakable bonds. I signed the form. The money transferred. And somewhere in Lagos, my sister smiled as $15,000, my entire future, landed in an account that would disappear by morning, along with my trust, my naivety, and the last threads of whatever sisterhood we'd once shared. 2 weeks became 4. 4 became 8. Aisha's phone went straight to voicemail. Her social media accounts showed a woman living in paradise, yacht parties, champagne towers, designer shopping bags arranged like trophies. But never a word about repayment. Never a mention of the crisis that had required my life savings. Then Fatima, a former student who now worked in Lagos, sent me a message with a video attachment. Teacher, I think you should see this. The video was grainy, shot from across a crowded nightclub. But I could see her clearly, Aisha, in a gold dress that probably cost more than I earned in 6 months, laughing as a man poured champagne into her glass. The bottle's label was visible. Dom Perignon. $200 a bottle. My $15,000, distilled into bubbles and temporary joy. I didn't plan the trip. I didn't think it through. I just bought a bus ticket with money I'd borrowed from Mama and rode through the night to Lagos, my rage building with each kilometer. Fatima met me at the bus station. Teacher, maybe this isn't a good idea. Where is she? The same club. She goes every Friday. The nightclub was another universe, laser lights cutting through artificial fog, music so loud it became physical, people wearing their wealth like armor. I stood at the entrance in my church dress and worn sandals, and the bouncer almost didn't let me in. Then I saw her. My face, my features, my exact genetic duplicate, transformed into someone I didn't recognize. She was surrounded by men in expensive suits, her laugh sharp and bright, her hand possessive on a champagne bottle that cost more than my monthly salary. I walked straight to her table. The music seemed to quiet, though I knew it hadn't. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, just a breath, I saw fear flicker across her face. Halima. She stood, her smile plastic. What are you doing here? $15,000, I said quietly. Where is it? The men at her table exchanged glances. One of them started to stand, but Aisha waved him down. Can we talk outside? We can talk here. Her jaw tightened. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself. My voice rose despite my intention to stay calm. You stole my money. You lied about an emergency. And now you're drinking champagne that cost more than a student's school fees. I didn't steal anything. I borrowed. Borrowed. The word exploded out of me. Around us, conversation stopped. Faces turned. You borrowed my future. You borrowed 5 years of saving. You borrowed the school I was going to build. The school. She laughed, sharp and cruel. That stupid school. Halima, wake up. Those village children aren't going to amount to anything. They're going to farm and sell vegetables just like our parents. You're wasting your life on a fantasy. The slap happened before I knew my hand had moved. The sound cracked across the club like a gunshot. Aisha's head snapped to the side, her perfect makeup smearing with the force. When she looked back at me, her eyes held pure venom. "We're done. You hear me? We're not sisters anymore. We're not twins. We're not anything. We stopped being sisters the moment you stole from me," I said. "I'm just finally accepting it." I turned and walked out, leaving her standing in her gold dress surrounded by strangers, holding a champagne bottle bought with my dreams. Behind me, I heard her voice, high and false, explaining to her companions that I was just a crazy woman from back home. Maybe I was crazy. Crazy for trusting her. Crazy for believing blood meant anything. Crazy for thinking that sharing a womb meant sharing a soul. On the bus ride home, I cried until I had nothing left. And somewhere between Lagos and Harare, I buried my sister. Not the physical person, but the idea of her, the twin I'd loved, protected, trusted. That Aisha was dead. And I would never make the mistake of trying to resurrect her. If you've ever trusted someone who turned your love into a weapon, you know this pain isn't simple. It's the kind of wound that doesn't heal cleanly, it scars. And sometimes, those scars are the only proof we have that we survived something meant to destroy us. I didn't hear what happened next from Aisha. I heard it from the internet, from gossip blogs and social media posts that spread like wildfire across Nigerian platforms. The first husband discovered the second husband at a hotel in Port Harcourt. They'd both come to surprise their wife on what they each believed was their wedding anniversary. The confrontation in the lobby went viral. Two men, both holding marriage certificates, both with photos of themselves standing beside Aisha in a white dress. The third husband saw the video. He came forward with his own marriage certificate, his own wedding photos, his own stories of a woman who traveled frequently for business and always paid in cash. But it wasn't the bigamy that destroyed her. Rich men could forgive a beautiful woman almost anything. It was the forgery. The bank investigation revealed that Aisha had been opening accounts using fake documents, stolen identities, forged signatures, elaborate schemes that would have impressed a professional fraudster. She'd built an empire of lies, each one supporting the next like cards in a house that was always destined to collapse. The arrest warrant was issued on a Wednesday. By Thursday, every news outlet in Lagos had her photo. By Friday, the men who'd once competed for her attention were competing to distance themselves from the scandal. I watched it all from my small room in Harare, my phone buzzing with messages from people who suddenly remembered we were twins. "Have you seen what your sister did?" they asked, as if her crimes were contagious, as if sharing her DNA made me complicit. Mama called, weeping. "Where did we go wrong?" "We didn't," I said gently. "She made her own choices." "But she's your twin. Your other half." "No." I looked at Grandmother Gogo's necklace, the one Aisha had coveted, the one that had started everything. "We came from the same place, but we were never going to the same destination." 3 months later, the trial concluded. Aisha was sentenced to 5 years for fraud, though her lawyers managed to get it reduced to probation and restitution if she could pay back her victims. The total amount, $42,000. I thought of my $15,000, still gone, still unacknowledged in any court. My money wasn't part of our official crimes because family theft rarely is. We're supposed to forgive our blood, absorb their debts, carry their mistakes like they are our own. But I had learned, finally and completely, that some blood is better spilled than shared. She appeared on a Tuesday evening, as the sun painted Harare in shades of amber and regret. I was sweeping the front of my small compound when I saw her, a skeletal figure in clothes too large for her shrunken frame, walking with the uncertain steps of someone who'd lost more than weight. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a faded wrapper and blouse. The Brazilian weave had been cut away, revealing hair that had started to gray at the temples despite her youth. Her face, once mirror to mine, had become a distorted reflection, hollowed by shame and hunger and the particular weight of consequences. She stopped at my gate, her hand trembling on the latch. "Halima." My name in her mouth sounded like a prayer from someone who'd forgotten how to believe in grace. "What do you want?" My voice was flat, empty of the rage I'd once felt. Rage required caring. I'd moved past that. I have nowhere else to go. She swayed slightly, and I realized she was weak. Genuinely, physically weak. They took everything. The apartments, the cars, the bank accounts. Everything. Good. She flinched as if I'd struck her. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. No. She sank to her knees right there at my gate, and I saw neighbors' curtains twitch as they watched the drama unfold. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I stole from you. I'm sorry I became, her voice broke, whatever it is I became. A thief. A liar. A fraud. I enumerated her crimes with clinical precision. Those are the words you're looking for. Yes. She looked up at me with eyes that held something I'd never seen before, genuine remorse, or maybe just genuine desperation. I need $42,000 to stay out of jail. The courts gave me 6 months to make restitution. And you thought I'd give it to you? I thought. She stopped, seeming to realize how absurd it sounded. I have no one else. You had 3 husbands. They are gone. All of them. She laughed, a broken sound. Turns out men don't appreciate being lied to. Imagine that. We stared at each other across the gate, the teacher and the thief, the giver and the taker, the twin who'd stayed and the twin who'd fled. Same face, same blood, completely different souls. I'll sleep outside if you won't let me in, Aisha said quietly. But I won't leave. I can't. There's nowhere left to run to. I should have closed the gate. Should have let her sleep in the dust, reap what she'd sown. But Grandmother Gogo's words echoed in my memory, you have the heart of water. You can stay, I said finally. But not as my sister. Not as family. You lost that right when you stole my dreams. I opened the gate. You can stay as a debtor who owes me more than money could ever repay. She nodded, her tears making tracks through the dust on her face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said. You haven't heard my terms. We sat across from each other at my small table, a notepad between us like a treaty waiting to be signed. Aisha's hands trembled as she held the cup of water I'd given her, the first kindness she'd received in months, and even that felt like more than she deserved. I need $42,000 in 6 months, she repeated, as if saying it again would make it more possible. If I don't pay, I go to jail. And my $15,000? I asked. The money you stole from me? Does that count toward your total? She had the decency to look ashamed. No. That wasn't part of the court case. Because I never reported you. Why didn't you? Because you were my sister. I let the past tense hang between us. And I was still fool enough to believe that meant something. She absorbed that like a blow. I know I can't make it right. I know. You're right. You can't. I pulled out a calculator, began writing numbers. But I'm going to offer you a chance anyway. Not because you deserve it. Not because we're blood. But because somewhere under all your lies and greed, there might still be a person worth saving. Anything, she breathed. I'll do anything. The village school is finally being built, I said. With donations from people who actually believe in the future of these children. It opens in 6 months. I met her eyes. I'm offering you a job. Cleaner. $80 a month. She stared at me. $80. But I need. 42,000, I know. I showed her the calculator. At $80 a month, it will take you 43 years to repay your debt. Give or take. The color drained from her face. 43 years. That's if you don't eat, don't need clothes, don't get sick. If you do all those human things, add another decade. I leaned back. Those are my terms. You work as a cleaner in the school you tried to prevent me from building. You earn minimum wage. You live in the quarters behind my compound. And every month, your entire salary goes toward your debt. That's slavery. No. Slavery is being forced to work without choice. You have a choice. I stood. You can refuse and face jail. You can try to find another job, though I doubt anyone in Nigeria will hire a convicted fraudster. Or you can accept that consequences are patient things, they don't go away just because you're tired of them. She was crying now, full sobs that shook her thin frame. This is revenge. No, I said quietly. Revenge would be letting you go to jail and feeling satisfaction. This is something harder. This is giving you a chance to become someone who deserves the air she breathes. I pushed the contract toward her. Sign it or don't. But decide now. I have lesson plans to prepare. She picked up the pen with shaking hands. Why are you doing this? Because Grandmother Gogo was right. I have the heart of water. I give even when I shouldn't. I watched her sign her name, binding herself to years of labor, to daily reminders of her failures. But water also shapes stone, Aisha. It takes time, but it always wins. And by the time you're done paying your debt, you'll either be someone new or you'll be broken. Either way, you'll never be the woman who stole from me again. She signed. And in that moment, her palace of glass officially shattered, replaced by a mop, a bucket, and a long, hard road towards something that might, eventually, look like redemption. The first week, Aisha's hands bled. She'd never scrubbed floors before, never bent her back to labor, never felt her knees ache from kneeling. The children watched her with curious eyes, this thin woman who looked like their teacher but moved like a ghost. Why does she look like you, Teacher Halima? Little Amina asked during break. She's my twin sister, I said, not lying, not hiding. She's learning what it means to build instead of take. Aisha cleaned in silence those first weeks, her pride like a wall around her. She scrubbed toilets, mopped hallways, emptied trash bins filled with children's discarded dreams, failed tests and crumpled drawings. Each task a small humiliation, each day a reminder of how far she'd fallen. But children are remarkable mirrors. They don't see fall from grace. They only see the person in front of them. One afternoon, I found Aisha sitting in the corridor, 6-year-old Ibrahim beside her, both of them peeling an orange. She doesn't know how to peel it right, Ibrahim explained seriously. So I'm teaching her. Aisha's hands, once manicured and soft, now rough and calloused, fumbled with the fruit. Ibrahim showed her patiently, the way children do when they believe everyone deserves to learn. Like this, auntie. You don't tear. You follow the lines God made. Something in Aisha's face cracked watching this child, this poor village boy she once would have dismissed, teach her something she'd never learned in all her years of taking shortcuts. Thank you, Ibrahim, she whispered. You're welcome. He offered her a slice. Food tastes better when you share. The weeks turned to months. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Aisha began to change. Not in grand gestures, but in small moments. She started arriving early to help set up classrooms. She learned the children's names. When little Fatima couldn't afford textbooks, Aisha gave her own meager food money to buy them. You don't have to do that, I told her. You barely have enough for yourself. I know. She looked at me with eyes that were finally starting to look like my own again. But Ibrahim was right. Things taste better when you share. She paused. I forgot that. Somewhere in all my taking, I forgot the only thing that ever really satisfied was giving. I watched her return to mopping, her movements no longer resentful but meditative. She was learning what I'd known all along, that there's dignity in honest work, that there's pride in service, that the floor you clean can teach you more about yourself than any penthouse ever could. One evening, I found her sitting in the empty classroom, staring at the blackboard where I'd written tomorrow's lesson, the difference between price and value. I destroyed my life chasing price, she said quietly. Designer clothes, expensive cars, rich men. All of it had price tags I paid for with lies. She touched the desk, worn smooth by years of children's hands. But this place. These kids. They have value. Real value. And I almost prevented it from existing. Almost, I agreed. But you didn't. And now you're part of building it instead. She looked at me, tears catching streetlight from the window. Do you think I can ever be forgiven? I think you're learning the wrong question, I said. It's not about being forgiven. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs forgiveness because she's finally doing what she should have been doing all along. Somewhere along the way, between the mop and the children, between the humility and the honest work, my sister was dying. And someone new was being born in her place. Whether she'd survive the transformation, I didn't know. But for the first time in years, I had hope. The school opened on a Saturday morning, 6 months after Aisha had returned. The building stood modest but sturdy, 3 classrooms, a library, a playground with swings that children from 5 villages would share. Above the entrance hung a sign, Gogo Memorial Primary School, where every child has value. I stood at the ribbon cutting in my best dress, watching as the district education officer prepared his scissors. Behind me, in her cleaning uniform, Aisha waited with the other staff, no longer a socialite, no longer a thief, just a woman who'd spent 6 months learning that the lowest position honestly held was higher than any throne built on lies. The children sang. Parents clapped. And when the ribbon fell, a cheer went up that echoed across the valley. After the ceremony, Aisha found me by Grandmother Gogo's portrait, which hung in the library, her wisdom preserved for generations who'd never know her personally but would benefit from her gift. Your first payment is due, I said, not unkindly. She handed me an envelope. $80, earned through sweat and humility. Against $42,000 debt, it was nothing. Against the person she was becoming, it was everything. 43 years left, she said with a small smile. Give or take. We stood in silence, watching children stream into their new classrooms, their futures suddenly wider than either of us had been allowed to imagine as girls. I need to tell you something, Aisha said quietly. The court called. One of the men I defrauded, the one from Port Harcourt, he's willing to forgive part of my debt if I testify against the people who taught me the schemes. She looked at me. It could reduce my obligation by $20,000. Will you do it? I don't know. She touched the necklace around my neck, Grandmother Gogo's necklace, the one that had started everything. Part of me wants the easy way out. Wants to cut decades of this sentence. She swallowed hard. But I'm learning that the easy way is what got me here. And maybe I need the full 43 years. Maybe that's what it takes to burn out all the poison. I looked at my twin, my mirror, my opposite, my greatest heartbreak and my most unexpected student. The choice is yours, I said. I can't tell you which road to take. Yes, you can. She met my eyes. You're the one with the heart of water, remember? You're the one who sees clearly. What do you think I should do? I thought of all the years ahead, all the floors she'd mop, all the children she'd serve. I thought of transformation and redemption and whether they could be rushed or if they needed time to settle into bone and blood. I think, I said slowly, that you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. The court can forgive your debt, but only you can forgive yourself. And that work. That takes as long as it takes. She nodded, understanding. We walked outside together, watching the sun set over Harare, painting everything gold, the school, the village, the faces of children who were finally getting the chance we'd both been denied in different ways. Thank you, Aisha whispered. For what? For not letting me stay dead. She reached for my hand, hesitant, as if afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. For giving me a floor to clean instead of a grave to lie in. Our hands joined, identical in shape, different in every other way. Twin sisters who'd taken 2 paths but somehow ended up at the same sunset, watching the same golden harvest of hope. Somewhere, I imagined Grandmother Gogo smiling. Her prophecy had come true in ways even she couldn't have foreseen. The heart of water had given and given until it finally learned when to stop. The heart of fire had burned until it consumed itself and rose from the ashes. We were twins. We'd always be twins. But now, finally, we were learning to share the right things, not just a womb or a face, but something harder and more valuable, the work of becoming people worthy of the gift of tomorrow. The school bell rang in the distance, calling students to their futures. And hand in hand, water and fire, we walked back inside to do the work that would define us both, not where we'd come from, but where we'd chosen to go. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs this lesson, and subscribe for more powerful African stories.